So here I am at one of my favourite surf beaches in the whole world, and definitely extra points if you can guess where it is. Actually just been to Short Point and it's running over there, but there's heaps of people and lots of surfers down there, so I kind of felt a bit embarrassed talking to a computer there. So I've come to Bar Beach, and as you can see it's not running at all, so it's much quieter, and there's a few people in for a dip. The tide's on the turn, so it's pretty quiet down here. Anyhow, the lecture I wanted to do today is about ethics, and really it's really important for a sporting organisation to minimise the chances of there being corruption or improve the sporting organisation's ability to deal with problems cleanly and quickly. And there's a whole lot of things that come into this. So this particular series is about ethics and how it relates to sporting organisations. One of the first things you should remember too is some people think it's not very ethical for a sporting organisation to actually purposely want to lose money. But that's what actually happened when the Sydney Swans started in the league, in the AFL, because AFL was not popular around Sydney at all, and they knew that introducing it they weren't going to make a profit in the first couple of years, so they were prepared to take a loss, and they did. But now they're highly successful, have a huge following, both in Sydney and down to Canberra and our region as well. And so that's a really good example of a sporting organisation that actually lost money originally to end up to be the successful club that it's in today. So really ethics is all about a set of moral principles and values. It's all about fair and decent behaviour and what's considered to be principled and just. But for each of us our values are very different, and it really does stem from who we are as individuals, our upbringing, our social environment, our educational background. All of those sorts of things actually set the boundaries for our values. But for large organisations, the boundaries or the values that they have are really being set by the vision and mission statements, of which you've had some experience in actually dealing with. Now, ethical dilemmas stem from a number of different areas. So, of course, we all have personal dilemmas from time to time, and it might be based on what a person has to what is desired. A really good example of this is when we see that item in the shops. It might be a new board, it might be a piece of clothing or whatever, and look, we can't really afford to buy it, but we really want to buy it, and we have this bit of a dilemma. Do we spend the money or do we not? Ethical dilemmas are also based on the end result, where the actions focus on the end product, so what would be the ultimate result if you chose that path. For an organisation, the interest of the stakeholders is very important, and within society itself, price, availability, safety and health concerns are all paramount in the decision-making process. So the different approaches that are sometimes taken are, personal approaches, that they sort of decide, well, what should we do? What's the best action for us as individuals? And of course, social contact. People are usually guided about what sets the standards. And if you go back to school days, there was a whole heap of principles and rules that were involved, and really that was to ensure that there was ethical behaviour within the school ground. Those rules and principles still apply in societies and may be different in different cultures, but it does ensure that people are protected and safe, and that's the ultimate environment in which people want to live. It all stems back to, with a sporting organisation though, is what does sport mean to individuals as players and spectators? And we all know that in rugby league we all like a bit of the biff, and if you watch the footy show they certainly show the biffs of the week, and this is all part of the game and part of why we watch rugby league and we enjoy it. But what expectations do people have of the institution of organised sport and its players and coaches? Look at Tiger Woods. Look how he was accepted or not accepted because of his extramarital affairs. Do you think that that should be something that the world or the public has a right to comment on it? Do you think it was fair that sponsors withdrew their sponsorship because they didn't want to be associated with him any longer? So this concept of what people think about Australian sport in general and how they believe that all games are fair and that they're organised and structured and the outcome of the game isn't decided before it's actually played is the basis of ethics within Australian sport. So a sporting organisation has a number of obligations, and that is that the athletes must be valued for what they bring to the organisation, for what they bring to society, for themselves. That the competition must be fair, and so that we don't know what the outcome is beforehand, so we don't have elite level players playing against unskilled social players. That participation, leadership, resources and rewards are actually based on achievement, so that people get things because they're the best, they're the skilled, they show the most potential. That people or staff actually get promotion because they've done a good job, they've proven that they are actually worth it. And all the activity must provide for the relative safety of the participants, and this is where it kind of gets a little bit cloudy. If you look at extreme sports, they're extreme because they're dangerous, and that's why people love them. So if we take out that extreme nature, then, potentially we take away that part that makes it so wonderful. But it also, you should also be aware that any sporting event, any program that you're actually running, you must ensure the safety of the participants as much as you can. For every foreseeable incident that may occur, you need to ensure that you can protect them in some way or minimise the risk of it actually occurring. We have a social responsibility, which means that we have a moral and legal responsibility on the part of individuals, on self and on others, that we must be reliable and trustworthy and have concern and regard for others. You just can't blatantly go out onto the field and take people out willy-nilly. That's not the aim of competitive sport. And you need to attempt to achieve a balance of profit and success in sport. So that profit and that success cannot come at the expense of athletes and key stakeholders, because it'll be too short term. They'll leave the sport, they'll move somewhere where they're more protected.
Hello.
Hello.
Good idea doing your homework out in the open.
Well, yeah, it makes it a little bit more interesting. It makes it a bit more interesting.
Oh yes,
Yeah, just a little bit.
Good fun, lovely spot.
Yeah, it is.